All right. Hey, Wes. How are you?
Hey Douglas, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate having you on.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, man. Look forward to chatting.
So, you've got a new movie out, and you know what? My producer wrote the wrong title. He got a little confused. He wrote No Time to Die, which was the latest James Bond movie, right?
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet, but one day.
Okay, so this movie is A Day to Die, and it stars Bruce Willis and Kevin Dillon. Kevin Dillon is the brother of Matt Dillon?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And this looks like it's a kind of a heist movie.
Yeah, on the face of it, it's a heist movie. It's about, these guys from different walks of life, and the trailer itself, highlights the action bits, but there's a lot more happening underneath the story, with the different characters, with Leon's character, with Kevin Dillon's character. And so it is a heist story with a couple of heists in there, and and then it's really about some flawed characters having to make tough decisions in the course of a day.
Okay, without giving too much of the movie away, is this like a heist that kind of goes bad?
No, yeah, no, it's not. I wouldn't call it a heist going bad. It's more about they complete a heist to achieve a certain goal. When it looks like that goal was achieved, it's kind of snatched away from them. In order to achieve their ultimate goal, new alliances have to be made, and decisions have to be made as to how they proceed, and how do they get out of this day alive.
I want to talk a little bit about you, particularly. I'm looking at your bio here. You weren't an actor, or are you an actor?
No,
No.
no, man, no, no, no. You won't put me in front of the camera. I mean, I used to be a lawyer, so some may say that's kind of like acting, but it's not. So yeah, I used to practice law as a civil rights attorney, man, and I just knew, I guess around 2013, 14, that I just knew like that wasn't the final calling for my life, man, and just had a lot of prayer and thinking and thought and researching and like started writing screenplays, and I've always loved film, man. Even when I was in law school, like I would watch The Verdict and The Rainmaker. That would be my like go-to's to help, I can do it, fight for the people. And so yeah, and then after that, about 2015, man, when I realized I had a talent for it, but I knew you had to put in hard work and dedication. And they say the law is a jealous mistress, and I think you could say that about filmmaking as well. So you couldn't do both, and followed my heart, and I'm happy I did, man.
Well, that's great. But you're right about if you were a trial lawyer, that's definitely an acting job.
I
Absolutely.
mean, 20%, you gotta play to the jury a little bit. You gotta know your audience, just like you do as a writer and as a director, and you gotta give your audience what they need to make a decision. Um, and they do have theatrical kind of techniques for trial lawyers, like psychodrama, crawling to the hide of your client to be able to communicate their story to the jury, and telling stories vividly, instead of saying walking on snow, you could hear the snow crunch under the heavy boots. A lot of that stuff, man, that you do learn that I actually think, translates well, even though it's a totally different discipline, a totally different writing style, but, the same kind of, dynamics. So yeah, 20% of some theatrics in there, that you got to throw in there.
Well, I suppose the consequence at the end is serious for whoever it is that you're defending, as opposed to a film, which, if it does well, fine. If it doesn't, it might be the end of your career. But you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
well, yeah, I try to, I agree with that. Like, that it is a ultimate responsibility of having somebody's life in your hand when you're doing,
Right.
criminal defense work. And I did do some of that on the federal level and state level. And even when you're representing somebody on the civil side, somebody's civil rights are violated or they've been injured, for them, that's everything. That's their Super Bowl. Like they really feel like in their heart they need this in order to write their life or to even be able to go forward. And you let them down, it weighs heavy on you, man. I'm a very emotional guy, so anytime I would lose, it would weigh on me. Thankfully, I was pretty good, trial attorney, so I didn't lose tons, but the ones that I did, sometimes I still think about them. And yeah, it could, you're right. Like on the film side, it would, kind of affect me and your investors. I feel like though what I've done is I've learned how to responsibly make films that even if the film doesn't like do great, it's packaged in a way so that the investors don't lose their shirt because you can lose your career very fast. And I've worked hard to get here and don't want to lose it.
Well, I hear you there. Well, let me ask you a little bit about how you went straight from that to directing, because generally speaking, people who are directors were actors, not all, but even the transition, there's an interview coming to mind with Ron Howard when he was on Howard Stern, and he was talking about having a hell of a time transitioning to directing, that nobody would take him seriously, even though he was a very accomplished actor ever since Mayberry as a little kid, right? But you went straight to it. What was your in? Is there like a school for directors, or did you get a lucky break, or how did you get into that?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a lucky break per se. I think so let me think the best way to, so basically I started with the writing, right? You just need to basically learn how to write, pen and paper, computer. And then about 2013, I just happened to put a screenplay on his website, Simply Scripts, and a producer in Los Angeles like read it and liked it. He made it. It was a very small budget, like micro budget, right? But I had never been on a film set, never done anything like that. He invites me up. I get to just stay over there, watch the whole process from the casting to him directing. And he was still a newer director at that time too. Now he's, won a daytime Emmy, so he's, pretty, been working hard himself. But just learned like the whole thing, just being on set. And after I did that, man, I really fell in love. I was like, yeah, this is it. And then also knew like, look, if you got stories you want to tell and you want them to be a certain way, you have to be the person to direct it. You can't just write it and give it to somebody else because they're going to make it their own. And being a minority filmmaker, there are a lot of things like from my, worldview that, other guys who don't have my experience may not infuse into material or may not understand how to communicate that. So learning how to put a movie together, so you almost have to produce your own at that level. So me and a couple of friends, we just kind of raised some money. We did a faith-based film called Prayer Never Fails. It was like my first, real movie, with Clifton Davis in it, and Lynn Whitfield, Corbin Burnson. And that was kind of like film school. And then I did another small one that was kind of like film school. So for me, it's just been like every film I do, I'm like, let me work on a discrete piece of filmmaking. So with Prayer Never Fails, it was like, can I actually put a 90-minute movie together? With the next one, Atone, it was like, okay, can I put a action movie? Can I make a compelling action movie with, little money? Then the next one, River Runs Red, was more of, can I infuse a action base with social relevance? And the movie, that movie's still special, but I saw what I wasn't able to accomplish. Then the next one was Hell on a Border. It was a Western. I just wanted to make a real classic Western because I love Westerns. And all these times, I'm learning. Like, so with that aesthetic, I'm like, not a lot of close-ups, wide views. Thing is, if you do that, you got to be in a beautiful setting, and we just couldn't afford to go like to the places where I want to go. So I feel like the film suffers in a few, because of that. And then here with A Day to Die, brother, I feel like I've been able to put all the pieces of the filmmaking paradigm together, and I've just been working really hard. And I feel like, with the team that, we've put together, and, the skills as far as like working with actors and learning the camera, learning my lenses, and keep pushing that action, genre up. I feel like, a lot of that came together on this one.
You and Orson Welles, he learned exactly the same way. Just hands-on experience, and he started young. That's great.
Yeah,
I think it's the best way to learn.
It is. I looked at like, you look at the John Fords, the Howard Hughes, back in the day. That's how they learn, man. Like these guys would make movie after movie after movie after movie, and then eventually they'll break out. Nowadays, it's a lot more expensive, so it's harder to do that, and everything you do is much more visible because of social media and the internet. And if you're not careful when you're doing this learning, you can get discouraged because you haven't seen yourself at its potential. And you just got to make sure you remember that, in human history, those who work and if you have some talent and you work hard at it, you will get there. And just take the little lumps along the way, and but just keep grinding, man. That's it.
Well, I hope that's true. I know there's a lot of people out there now doing film. That's the other thing with the digital revolution. It's easier to do, but now you're competing against 50 million people, where before there wasn't just as many people doing it, right?
Yeah, and that's 100% true. And I find myself in a unique situation in the sense of, like, I think I'm a product of that digital revolution in the sense of, when I was a kid, I used my little Pixel 2000 camera, with the little black and white, and like we made our little home movies. And I would always try to find me a little video camera that would do 24 frames per second, but it never looked like a movie. And I was just like, man, this doesn't work either. This doesn't work either. And it wasn't until, the DSLRs came out that I was like, oh, okay, now I'm seeing, and allowed me to learn. And I think, Douglas, what I absolutely learned was this, is everybody can pick up a camera and everybody can shoot, but not everybody can tell a story. And I just went almost kind of like spent more time in boot camp on writing and learning structure, learning the dramatic structure, learning to translate how I used to write into what I need to write. And so for right now, the thing is that script, get that screenplay where it needs to be, to attract talent that allows you to actually, kind of separate yourself from, the fray.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. It still ultimately comes down to a good story. Yeah.
Brother, I mean,
Yeah.
again, like what I did was I read this Peter Bogdanovich book, where he interviews all these classic, directors. And brother, like what they would always say is, yeah, we would just pitch the story. We would pitch the story. Then they commission us to write a screenplay. It was all about story. Is there a good story in there? If there's a good story, then you can get good writers to bring it out. Is it a film? Can you find these cinematic stories? And that's really helped refocus me on how to keep moving towards the future. But it is about a good story.
Well, we do have to wind this down, but I wanted to ask one last question, which I'm sure a lot of people want to know. What was it like to work with Bruce Willis?
Man, Bruce is a legend. And he has a full team working around him, and it's kind of like, I think I may have used this analogy, but like when some people have their Super Bowl, it was kind of almost like that feeling. So I used to play football, and so like when you have a big game, you kind of like, you kind of get yourself up hype, and like everybody is a little bit more on point. Everything was like just moving, clicking, and everything a lot faster. But just being in his presence as that legend and so accomplished, it was really rewarding and watching him work. And I'd say the same thing about, Leon, 5 Heartbeats and The Temptations and Cool Runnings and Above the Rim and, countless others. I grew up kind of like admiring him, and like, I was like really scared to work with him because he's so cool. And like, so tough, in a lot of his roles. I was like, man, he's probably like, really, tough dude to work with. Nah, man, he was wonderful. And the cast, and, Frank's the consummate tough guy. And Kevin was a very, big surprise because, he does a lot of comedy, but he really brought his A game. And like with these gentlemen, man, like when you get a chance to, really dive into the material, to the film, you'll see, man, like there's a really nice chemistry and brotherhood, and these guys really did a great job bringing their characters to life.
Well, Wes, we got to wind this down. We're going to take a look at the trailer after we say our goodbyes.
Cool.
Thank you so much for coming on. The movie is called A Day to Die. My guest is director Wes Miller. The film is out.
Yeah, it'll be out March 4th. If you come to my Instagram, you can go to theaters. It's playing in about 10 cities. My Instagram is I am Wes Miller. And I'll have a little poster up, and then it'll be on all the streaming sites. But yeah, man, watching the theater with a crowd, amazing experience. So if you can get there, if it's one close to you, after you watch your Batman that comes out the same day, come check us out. But we'd definitely love your support, and look forward to you guys checking it out.
All right. Well, Wes, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time. Best of luck.
Hey, thanks, Douglas, so much, brother.
Can't believe we're having a baby. You're gonna be the best mom ever. You gotta wear a seatbelt.
Jackson Police Chief is taking questions now.
On my watch, I will always protect the city, and it's all for you.
It's Tyrone. They got Candace.
I need that debt you owe me.
What did you do to my wife? What do you want, Connor?
Hey, brother.
I need your help. I need $2 million by midnight. There's only one team I know that can pull this off. Cap, where is she?
We're all watching you, Chief. We're all watching you.
Show's over.
Everything we've done till now has been under the cover of the flag. But this is outside the law.
So what's the plan?
We need guns.
Smash and grab. Business as usual. This can get ugly.
Engage! You have no idea who you're robbing.
You left a loose end.
I don't leave loose ends. I'm gonna get my money.
I want to see her right now.
You sure?
If you walk away, she dies.
So what we gonna do?
We got the element of surprise, and we got violence.
You ready?
Knowing what battles to fight, that's critical.
Here comes the cavalry.
Stay the course!
You're not gonna say anything. I know everything that goes on in these streets. I was trained for war. I fight to win.
It's a big price to pay. All the way on love. If you feel it, then they can stay.